Canada is ripping us off with these insane tariffs. 270%, 300%, even 400% on dairy. Unacceptable. Trump's words send shockwaves through the crowd. But what if I told you that while these numbers are technically true, almost nobody actually pays those tariffs? The real story behind US-Canada dairy trade is far more complicated, and what we are about to uncover might change the way you see international trade forever. For years, Donald Trump has made it clear that he believes Canada is unfairly blocking American dairy products, creating a heavily tilted playing field. But is Canada really the villain here, or is there a deeper reason behind its strict dairy policies? The answer lies in a complex system called supply management, a controversial approach to farming that has made Canada's dairy industry both stable and fiercely protected. Let's break this down in simple terms. Imagine you're buying milk. In Canada, dairy farmers don't just produce as much as they want, there's a tightly controlled system that regulates exactly how much milk can be made. The government sets production limits based on how much Canadians are expected to consume. The goal? To prevent overproduction, stabilize prices, and ensure that dairy farmers always earn a fair wage. In contrast, in the United States, dairy production is largely unrestricted, leading to an ongoing problem: too much milk. When American farmers produce more than they can sell domestically, they look to export markets like Canada. But here's the problem: Canada doesn't need their extra milk. So, to prevent cheap American dairy from flooding the market, Canada slaps massive tariffs on dairy imports beyond a certain limit. This is what Trump keeps referring to. Now, let's get one thing straight: those sky-high tariffs don't exist. If an American company tries to sell milk to Canada beyond the allowed limit, they could face tariffs of up to 300%. But here's the twist: almost nobody ever pays those tariffs. Why? Because Canada allows a set amount of US dairy to come in tariff-free every year. This is called a tariff rate quota, TRQ. Think of it like this: Canada says, you can bring in the first few shipments of dairy at low or no taxes, but the moment you exceed that limit, we are hitting you with insane tariffs. And here's the kicker: the US has rarely even hit the quota, meaning that for years, American dairy was already entering Canada duty-free, just in limited amounts. This completely changes the narrative. Trump's fiery rhetoric makes it sound like Canada is completely blocking American dairy, when in reality, the US is selling billions of dollars worth of dairy products to Canada every single year, without paying those sky-high tariffs. But that raises a big question: if these quotas exist, why is Trump still so angry? The real battle isn't just about tariffs, it's about who controls these import quotas. Most of the licenses that allow American dairy into Canada aren't held by US companies. They are actually controlled by Canadian dairy processors. Companies like Saputo and Elite Dairy have the power to decide what actually gets imported, and they have no incentive to bring in a flood of cheap American milk, because that would threaten their own business. So even though the US technically has access, Canadian companies are controlling the flow. And that, more than anything else, is what the US government is fighting against. This isn't just a Trump versus Canada issue, this trade fight has been going on for decades. The US dairy industry has long argued that Canada's supply management system is unfair because it creates a closed market that heavily favors local producers. On the other hand, Canadian dairy farmers argue that this system is necessary to keep their industry alive. Without it, they believe they would face the same fate as many American dairy farmers: constant overproduction, unstable prices, and farm closures. Let's look at the numbers. In the US, thousands of dairy farms shut down every year due to falling milk prices. Farmers are forced to overproduce in hopes of staying profitable, which drives prices even lower. The result? Many small farms simply can't survive. In contrast, Canada's supply management system ensures that farmers only produce exactly what's needed. Because of this, Canadian dairy farms have remained more stable than their American counterparts. But there's another layer to this: consumer prices. Trump claims that Canada's dairy system is hurting American farmers, but here's something he doesn't mention: it's also making dairy more expensive for Canadian consumers. In Canada, milk prices are set by the government, which means they remain higher than market prices. If Canada allowed unlimited American dairy to flood the market, prices would almost certainly drop. But at what cost? Would that mean the collapse of Canadian dairy farms? That's the trade-off at the heart of this issue. And now, there's another elephant in the room, the new NAFTA deal. Under the USMCA, United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, Canada was forced to loosen its dairy restrictions slightly. The agreement opened up a larger portion of Canada's dairy market to US imports. But here's the thing, Canadian dairy farmers are not happy about it. They argue that even this small concession threatens their industry. And yet, American dairy producers are still not satisfied. They claim that Canada is using loopholes to continue blocking their products. So, where does this leave us? Can the US force Canada to fully open up its dairy market? It's unlikely. Canadians overwhelmingly support supply management. Even politicians who have criticized the system in the past tend to back away once they see the backlash. And let's be real, even if Trump, or any future US president, threatens tariffs or trade penalties, Canada isn't going to give up its dairy industry without a fight. This raises a critical question. Is Trump's attack on Canada's dairy tariffs really about trade, or is it about politics? Dairy farmers hold major political power in key battleground states like Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, all places that Trump needs to win elections. By making Canada the villain, he's sending a message to American farmers that he's fighting for them. But whether or not he can actually change the system is another story. And then there's the consumer side of things. If Canada suddenly opened its doors to American dairy, would Canadians even want it? Many Canadians prefer their local milk because it's RBST-free, a hormone commonly used in American dairy production, but banned in Canada. This means that even if the US got more dairy into Canada, it's not guaranteed that Canadians would buy it. So what happens next? Is this just another case of political posturing, or could this actually escalate into a full-blown trade war? One thing's for sure, this battle isn't just about milk. It's about economic survival, national identity, and political strategy. What do you think? Should Canada protect its dairy industry, or should it open up its market to more American products? Is Trump right to call out Canada's tariffs, or is this just another exaggerated talking point? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this deep dive interesting, don't miss our next video, where we break down the biggest trade disputes between the US and Canada. Trust me, dairy is just the tip of the iceberg. Because if Trump is targeting Canadian dairy today, what's next?